All right. I think I talked to most of you a week ago. 9 practices and 1 scrimmage in, and it's a fun group of guys to coach. You know, it's one of the chemistry-wise. A lot of times you have a really tight offense, really tight defense, and they don't get along. And it's a unique team. There's a lot of really, really good chemistry on this football team. It's a very young football team, as I've mentioned over and over, but there's things that happen with that, and in practice there's just a lot of guys trying to prove themselves right now. When you have a senior laden team, they're kind of like, let's get to the game. So it's been hungry at practice. It's been fun, and I'm impressed with some of the improvement. I think our secondary right now is playing way above where it was a year ago at this time. There's good depth in that group. Our offensive line it's been fun to see because they've stayed in a position to continue and get better and better and better, and the depth. It's probably as good a freshman offensive line group as I've been a part. And those guys are doing a really good job as young guys and seeing a lot from our defense. So, it's been fun to watch that. Receiving core, Tabari is going to be a great addition. You guys already know about, the returning players. We've talked a lot about them, but, haven't seen Tabari now for 9 to 10 days. He brings something else to the table, and, I think him and Keon Lassane. Keon's really had a good camp. Add some things in our slot position. With Thayer being in there, we've got some pretty good depth and versatility. And the biggest thing we got to do is just get better. We got to get better every day, and as the season goes, every week. Having a roster that's so young, the improvement can be a lot more than when it's an older group. And so just week in and week out, buying into that as a football program. Right now we're force-feeding situations on these guys. So, you install your DNA of your systems, and now you're putting them in these situations where they have to handle 3rd and medium, 3rd and short, 4th down. Today was a 2-point play and 2-minute day, into game, into half, getting them in those environments and seeing who has poise, who understands the game under those pressure situations. And now we'll just keep doing that and repeating it and getting them into all those final 30-second type high-pressure environments as we can, and practicing those with the guys and trying to let them learn from their mistakes now instead of on game day. But we've got a lot of work to do, a lot to know where we're at, and haven't made any decisions and won't until I have enough with the quarterback or any others to announce where we're at with things. But I do like the competition and the progress. Questions?
Talk about that evaluation process of your quarterback. Do you come in every day, watch film for practice, have a chart that you keep points, or is it just by feel as you go through this process?
Well, I watch film every single player, every single rep, and then we chart everything. And so there's a lot of analytics that we look at. And so we're looking at their, from the quarterback position, you start with their completion rate, their touchdown, interceptions, and then you're looking at drives, who's getting first downs, keeping us on the field, who's creating touchdowns instead of field goals. And then just the mistake factors, who's not running the system the way it should, delivering the ball to where it should go, going through their progression. But we do that at every position, and obviously at that one right now, it's got a microscope on it from me and our offensive staff.
With Matt, he's kind of quiet with us. How is
Matt
he?
McKay?
Yeah. How is he on the field, and also seems like he's probably taken more of a leadership and a little bit more vocal since
I think
spring or
he's
summer.
very vocal with his teammates. I think I wouldn't say he's a reserved guy by any means. He's not a cheerleader. I think he reminds me of Jacoby leadership-wise. He says stuff when he needs to say it. He motivates guys in his own way. He's definitely a servant leader. He talks to guys one-on-one a lot. He's very confident, but he's not a cheerleader, that's not his personality. But he's not a bragging type kid. You know, I don't think that's what you're going to get when you interview him. He's probably going to talk more about the guys around him than he is himself.
Pretty special moment for Seth Williams
Yeah.
today. What was that like?
You know, for me, it's one of my favorite things to do. You know, is to give a walk-on a scholarship because they've earned it, and they came in here. You know, whether they were recruited at a lower level or not, they came in here with a lot of work to do, and it's not glamorous work. You know, it's just not. And Seth is a guy that has impressed everybody, you know, from strength coaches to players. And he had a really good day yesterday, and he's starting now on a couple special teams. And so you could just see the elation of his teammates. And so for me, you know, a guy that's been here, you know, for multiple years, and no matter what we ask him to do, he's just going to go do it as hard as he can. You know, those are the heartbeats of your team. And so it's great to reward that.
With such a young team, how important is it to have the chemistry that you have as kind of a big glue factor?
Yeah, it's critical. I mean, there's going to be some tough moments, obviously. We're going to make some mistakes. And we just got to be really, really together, you know, and understand that when you're playing with freshmen and sophomores at times, they're going to make freshman and sophomore errors. And we're trying to coach them out of them. Obviously, we don't want those to happen. But when they do, you know, I think that the love these guys have for each other will help through those moments and, you know, get their arms around guys, pick them up quick, get them back into where they need to be mentally so that they can play.
You mentioned Tabari. Obviously, he started his career at Wake Forest. What was the process like to get him here from Oregon? Did you have to reach out to him, or did he reach out to you guys, or how'd that work?
You know, it started quite a ways back whenever he, you know, announced he was leaving there. And at the time, we weren't sure whether we were going to take a transfer at that spot or not because we had some guys coming back. You know, I can't remember if it was prior to Jacoby going or after. I really don't remember at this time. But obviously we knew how good a player he was because of what he did to us. And the biggest thing that for us, it was just making sure that he'd be able to be admitted, that the academics were in order and, you know, all those things. And he had a surgery when he was at Oregon, so making sure he'd be healthy. And once all those kind of things lined up, then it was just about getting him here and getting his family here so it was the right fit for him.
You guys struggled in kick returns last year. Is that something he could help you with, you think, right away?
Well, for sure on punt return, you know, it gives us another option with Thayer. And right now I would say we're in a better place. You know, obviously Thayer is more confident than he was a year ago, but also Keon is a guy that's a dynamic guy back there. And Tabari has game experience doing that. And then with the kickoff return aspect too, we haven't figured out who that guy is yet, but those are two of the options are Tabari and Keon. We'll see where that goes. You know, there's obviously you've got a slew of running backs, you know, back there catching the ball too, so we got to figure that piece out. But it's nice to have more options than we had there a year ago.
Dave, you mentioned the chemistry of this team. How has that chemistry on the offensive line developed? And has Zovan Lindsay made any kind of impression on you?
You know, Zovan's improved a lot. He was very raw, which we expected, being a multi-sport guy, you know, from a really small school. So the weight room was a shock, you know, and so he came into fall camp in a much better place than he did going into spring football. And sprained his ankle, so, you know, dealing with that right now. But I really like how much he's improved in the short time he's been here. That freshman O-line class, like I mentioned, it's talented. What Icky and Tim McKay and Dylan McMahon and Zovan, those four guys, they're good players.
Dave, you praised Amizi last year for the way he followed the lead, being willing to be a follower with Myers and Harmon. More is going to be expected of him, obviously.
Yeah.
How has he sort of handled that transition where maybe he's the guy people look to now?
Yeah, I'm proud of him. You know, standing up in front of a group and talking something he would never have done 2 years ago. Just very introverted and probably lacked confidence in that. And this summer with our leadership council, we did a lot of opportunities. We read a couple books together and allowed players to come up and sit in front of the room and talk. And he did that multiple times and told his story to the guys. And I think he's got a lot different place mentally right now where he can do that. And the players look up to him. You know, they really do, because of how hard he works and how serious it is to him. So, again, he's a guy similar to Matt McKay in that when he talks, they listen. And he's not going to be out there cheerleading, but he's going to do it with his play. And when he feels like he needs to say something, he's definitely in a place where he can do that now. And the younger receivers have emerged. You know, Devin Carter's having a good camp. And him and C.J. Riley have worked hard on him in the offseason to get him in there, and he's improved a lot.
On this team, who's made the biggest impact so far?
You know, I think there's a bunch of guys. Drake Thomas, Louis Asus, Brock Miller, Peyton, C.J. Hart. Those guys are playing good. They're active. They can run. And our speed at that position is the best we've had across the board. We've always had one guy, but it's a good competition right now. It's fun seeing the growth. I think CJ's improved a ton and has played Will and Mike and is able to handle a lot mentally. And Peyton, obviously, it's great seeing him on the field right now. He's a very, very good football player. And so now he's just trying to knock the rust off and learn all the things that go into playing in our system. But he's making a lot of plays. I don't know if you can pinpoint one guy. There's a collective group of guys that are really playing well.
Coach, I asked you about Jordan Houston the other day on Tuesday, the first day of full pads, and you said that he kind of seemed like he hit a wall that first day.
He did.
I wanted to ask you about his progression so far, as well as the rest of the young running backs for this team.
Yeah, he bounced back. Maybe he read too many positive comments, and I told him that. But he bounced back. He had a good scrimmage. He's definitely going to be a guy that can help us. And Delbert Mims is getting better. You know, it's fun seeing those three freshmen. You know, Zonovan didn't really start camp well. Has picked it back up. He had a good scrimmage yesterday. So, you know, it's going to be a deal by committee probably for a while with them being so young. Even Trent and Ricky are young, you know, and just to help them through the season. But there's a lot of different guys that can do different things back there, and it's nice having that depth.
You significantly reduced your penalties last year. Was there anything that you did specifically to achieve that?
Obviously, we emphasize it. I think whatever you emphasize, they hear. I think the first thing for NC State to be a good NC State is to not beat NC State, you know, and that's something I really, really believe in. We show plays, and I hate to talk about this play because it's my favorite NFL team, but the D Ford play in the Chiefs-Patriots game where he lined up in the neutral zone, we show those kind of plays to our players, you know, and just how important everything is in the game, how one little thing can cost you so much, and just not beating us. I mean, there's going to be combat penalties where you're straining and you hold a guy and they call it, and that's going to happen in football. You know, the ones you can't have are the pre-snap mental things, the post-snap emotional things, and so there's a lot of stress put on that. We did not do well in that area yesterday in our scrimmage, I'll tell you that. We had way too many, so an area we got to get better.
Other than the Syracuse game, were you generally pleased with the penalty punch?
Yeah. I mean, I think we were top 3 in the league, and that's our goal, you know, in every category is to try to finish in the top 3 statistically, and, you know, I think that's a sign of discipline. Like when people watch our football team, you know, I want them to say that. This is a disciplined team that's not going to beat themselves. This is a physical team that's going to play with great technique and effort. Like those are the things that I want on film. And I think we've had that for the most part here. We just got to continue to build on it.
Coach, I know you're a busy guy. I'm not sure if you had to got a chance to see the other day, but Kirk Cousins was awfully critical of Garrett Bradbury and slippery footballs because of his posterior. Was that a problem here at NC State?
No. I screenshotted that and texted it to Garrett. And I was like, "What's this about, man?" And he's like, "Yeah, he had some things to say about it, but I don't know. Some quarterbacks are softer than others, I guess.
You got to replace an outstanding punter. How is that playing out so far?
Yeah, it's a good competition right now between Trent Gill and Mackenzie Morgan. We have two really good options. I'm excited about both of them, to be honest with you, and we just got to see where it goes. But Trent, kickoff-wise, has done a great job in camp too. I mean, he hit 3 yesterday that were 7, 8, and 9 deep in the end zone. And so, between those two guys, I think we'll be in good shape.
What was it about Tabari that has caught your attention since he's been here?
Consistency more than anything. And today he really competed. He's hungry. I think, he left Wake to, go have this, whatever season he thought he was going to have at Oregon. Didn't have it, had injuries, and he knows the clock's ticking. There's urgency. He doesn't get to do it anymore after this year if he doesn't have a great season. And, for an undersized guy, they got to play out of this world to get another shot, So he's really hungry. He's very, very football smart. I mean, he's learned every position in our offense, wide receiver-wise, so he can play XC and slot. Not everybody can do that, particularly when they just get here, when he did. So, just demeanor-wise, he's very steady. He's not an up-and-down guy.
How excited are you for Meet the Pack Day? How has this grown since your time here?
Outside of carpal tunnel at the end, from 2 hours of signing my name, it's great. It's awesome seeing the fans and the kids. And for our players, it's a good break in camp, to get there. And I think it reminds them of why they do this at times, just all these little kids looking up to them and the fanfare that goes with it. And we got a beautiful day for it. So it's always a good time, and all of our coaches' children will probably be running around. And it's just a good break in the action from the monotony, I think, and chance to kind of reel them back in, on what's about to happen here in 20 days.
So much on offense. Is the defense way ahead of the offense so far after 9 practices?
Yeah, I think in some areas they are. There's definitely less thinking going on that side of the ball. They're playing fast on defense right now, which you would expect. And I think offensively, like the receiving core is pretty veteran. I mean, even though they're not starters, they played a lot for us last year. There's linemen that have played a lot. The areas that you see the biggest things are at running back because they're so young, where they've got to continue to learn and learn and learn. And so obviously they look a lot different than our linebacking core does, and they go against each other a lot. The tight end group's a very veteran group, so those guys are just plugging along. So it's really positional on the offensive side of the football.
Anything else?
All right, thank you guys.